3, 2, 1. Let's
go!
go! Who made this?
God.
God made I mean, the rock, I get it. But like then God made the person who thought, I need whiskey, I need gold. What? Is that how it goes?
Oh, it's so heavy.
So you can get a glass underneath it? Now, I'm pretty sure that's a 2 mica granite.
Yeah.
That rock is definitely associated with some type of natural resource on the planet. Wherever this rock is from, guaranteed, one, it's paraluminous, meaning that the rock comes from a process where the crust gets super hot because of flat subduction. When the subducting plate picks up and it gets real fast, when subducting plates pick up in geologic time, the subducting plate flattens and it creates this water reaction where the water changes the way the melting temperature and the melting point of the crust, it totally changes that when it goes flat. That's how that rock's made. That's when that rock is made. And because the plate tectonics are so wide scale, you see this rock like in Western United States. At that time, you age date rocks across the Western United States, all paraluminous, flat subducting, like it's super widespread global event, like Western United States scale event. And then there's resources that are fractionating out of this rock. This is like the host rock. And then you'll get like pegmatites. You'll get these things that are full of lithium that we're looking for, the spodumene lithium. It's associated with that rock, man. That's paraluminous, flat subduction. I'm super hyped about this rock right now. I'm sorry for the tangent.
I actually bought this in California from a rock shop in California.
What?
And I'm wondering if it has some, I don't know, it's not maybe the right structure, but if this is some tourmaline in it as well. So I'm not, yeah.
I can go with that. Let's call it tourmaline. I can
I
totally
don't
go with
know.
that. You got muscovite for sure.
I'm not a geologist by trade. I
Oh,
just
you're
like
not?
pretty rocks.
Aha. Well,
I missed my calling.
then,
I
well,
just
you're.
like it a lot.
So I would say you're cooler than a geologist and most geologists because you actually love rocks.
I do.
Every geologist enjoys rocks, but there's really a small percentage of geologists that like actually love rocks. Like you grab a piece of tourmaline and it's like, this is like part of me. I want to sleep with this. You know what I mean?
I have a slight obsession. Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do. They're all over my house. My
What?
husband actually carves stuff out of them for me.
What?
Yeah, he
So
knows.
he-
He knows the way to my heart.
Wow. That's like the husband will never lose. He
I didn't
just
know.
keeps
He
working
doesn't.
your rocks.
Absolutely.
He's going to stay in your heart forever. That guy's got it figured out.
He
Any
really does.
problem, like you're having a bad day, hand the rock over. It totally fixes it.
He epoxied a flower recently, and then he drilled a hole in a really pretty, just a standard rock, and then he put the flower in the rock, and that was
Who is this guy? I love this
I
guy.
know, he's pretty,
I want to hang out with this guy.
he's pretty fun.
Right on. Please introduce yourself and what you do for
Sure.
Geomark.
Yeah, so I'm Cristalynn Lovelady. I'm an account manager here that handles Permian Basin, actually. So I've only been with Geomark for about a year and a half, and I was
Whoa.
out of the industry for a couple of years. My background is business normally, but about 12 years or so ago, I got involved with core analysis through my Weatherford Labs experience, and
Okay.
I fell in love. They found me in the rock room with all the clients. Most of the time, my boss would come in and we'd be pouring over a core, and I'd be going, "What does this mean? And what does
Yeah.
this mean?" And
Yeah.
the geologist doing the description was like
Get at it.
so into it, and my boss was like, "Don't you have a job to do?"
Are you going to start filling this core description for me?
Yeah.
Right
So,
on.
those
Okay,
are
so
good
when you
times.
showed up at Geomark a year and a half ago, and they said, "Hey, we need someone in the Permian," you knew kind of what you were coming into, but you didn't know everything about Geomark. What was it
That's
about the
right.
company that like really hit you, and like you started seeing like the
Yeah.
value that is Geomark, and how you were going to start marketing this, how you were going to start speaking about
Sure.
Geomark? How did that kind of evolve?
So that's a great question. My initial response to Geomark was just because of their reputation. Geomark
Yeah.
has been around for 30 years. They're just they do science right, and they're very, very reputable in regards to the integrity of their science. And
Okay.
there's no black box here. So we hand over all the raw data to our clients. And if they know what to do with it, great. If they don't, we have experts in house that will show them what to do with it. And so that's been their lifeline for 30
Yeah.
years is just good science and
Wow.
somebody who's willing to just keep their integrity as high as possible
Yeah.
the whole time. When we make a mistake, we own up to it. When
Yeah.
we don't know what we're doing, we say we're not the right guys, but it's super rare that happens actually.
Oh, I
We're
bet.
like, we don't know what to do with this because
Yeah.
we have really, really great people. And then as far as marketing in the Permian and how that sort of evolved, I mean, like I said, I'm not a geologist by background. I'm certainly not a geochemist by background. And when I worked at a bigger lab,
Yeah.
geochemistry was the one thing that I couldn't quite wrap my head around.
Okay.
And so coming to work for a geochemistry company was very intimidating to me.
Wow. Yeah, that would be.
However, one of our lead geochemists, Katie Donahue, said, "You make the money out of what comes out of the ground," and so that's what we analyze. It's fun
Smart.
looking at the rocks. It's awesome understanding the stratigraphy. You have to
Sure.
understand how the two correlate and bridge the gap between the
yeah.
rocks and the fluids.
Oh, yeah.
However, you make the money out of what comes out of the ground. So
That's right.
that's what we want to look at.
So
And
okay.
yeah.
You guys are focusing on doing the chemistry of the brine, the water, and the oil and the gas.
Yep. So we look at water, oil, and gas.
Right on.
We have analytical services for the oil and the gas, and we know exactly what we're looking at when we look at the water analysis that we get outsourced. And then, yeah.
Man, correlating all that, giving it to the
Mm-hmm.
client. And you have, I mean, the map that's on the wall here at Urtec,
It's incredible.
you're looking at the globe. You're looking at planet Earth, right? It's all
yeah.
laid out. It's
Yeah.
like, kind of whatever its projection is. But you're
Yes.
looking at this, you're looking at these data points, and you're going,
What does it all mean?
you guys have been doing
Yeah.
this for 30 years, collecting that data. And then when you collect a new data set, you obviously integrate it into the rest of the planet
That's right. Yeah.
for a reference point
Yes.
of QCing the data of
Oh, yeah.
what it relates to in other areas that have been maybe more developed or less developed. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be interesting to hear from the operators, right? When you sit down in a company's office and you're talking to them about what you provide with the data set they have, that's one thing. But when they're like, "Hey, we have new data for you," Geomark takes that in.
Mm-hmm.
It's all proprietary. You guys don't publicly sell this stuff, or do you?
So the data comes to us in a couple of different ways, and I know this might put us down a bunny trail, but we do scrape for data. We scrape all the public sites
Yep.
for data because we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what we don't have to. But most of our data has come through data trades, and so the data is proprietary to Geomark.
Right on.
Obviously performed by either us or an operator and then traded, or they go out of business and we buy it.
Yeah.
For instance, we just bought Old Geochem Labs. So we are currently adding thousands and thousands of new data points to the
What?
system. So
So
that
it's-
map is going to have to change for next year at Urtec
You got,
because we're going
I
to
don't know how
have
much
more.
more room you got on the map.
There's not
You
going
gotta
to
shrink
be.
down the spots.
Yeah. So we
so-
are, it's mainly proprietary, but
Okay, so the data that you just acquired, is that already ran with geochemical analysis?
Yeah.
So you're just plotting it on a map, plugging it
Yes.
into the database, or
But the difference between just scraping that data or buying that data and plugging it into a map is that we know what we're looking at. We run the analysis in-house, and so we know exactly what that data is meant to look like. So if we see something that looks funky on the data set,
yeah,
it gets kicked out, or
analyze whatever.
we can flag it in some
Yeah.
way, just making sure that we know that data may not be exactly right. And then, it's interesting because some people, they just scrape the data and they plug it in and they're like, okay. And then the operator has to go and do all that hard work to try and figure out what's right and what's wrong. And,
Right,
But we
right.
know what we're looking at, and we can
Yeah.
plug it in regionally as well. So we know what the region is meant to look like. I mean, if you give me a Wolfcamp oil, I can tell you that it's a Wolfcamp oil, and you don't have to tell me where it came from. I can tell you where it came from. So it's kind of
right
nice.
on,
Yeah.
right on. Okay, so how does an operator take advantage? Not to say it that way, I guess, but really you have 30 years of history. You have this incredibly accurate QC'd relational database that's it's got Z axis. You have depth tied to all these things. You have X,
Yep.
Y, and depth.
Yep.
And so I'm an operator. I'm in the state of Texas. I want the whole Texas database
Oh Lord.
access to Geomark's
That's a lot
data.
of data.
And I just want to access it when I get a property, when I get an opportunity to evaluate something. I want to open it up like a layer and start look. Is that how it works?
So, well, you're talking about exploration there, right?
Yeah.
So our data is relevant to every phase of the oil and gas life cycle. I mean, all the way from exploration through development. But in regards to exploration, that's exactly how it starts, right? You want to know what you're looking at. You
Yeah.
want to identify your region. You want to know your sandbox.
Yeah,
And
every
that's
data
exactly
point possible.
what we can tell you. What kind of oil are you going to be looking at here? It helps
Sure.
you understand how it needs to be completed. Your spacing, obviously. I mean, it just tells you everything that you need to know about that region.
So-
Maturity maps all the way through.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So can you license that data?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can buy it and license the data from us.
Okay.
And it's a subscription like
It
other.
is.
Yeah. There's a
Okay.
lot of other companies who do similar things, and
Okay,
so
yeah.
we sell it as a subscription. And we have people who have been in our database for almost 30 years. They've been working with us for that long.
Wow.
It's really
I want
fun.
those guys on the show.
I
I
know.
want to know what they know. Wow. Okay. So
It's fun.
When-
Actually, we've got somebody stopping by. I'm hoping that she'll talk. So
yes,
we'll
let's
see.
get her on the. Yeah, I would love to talk to her about that. I want to know how user friendly or usable all that
yeah.
information is. How searchable is it? Like Google, you just like literally pop open a search box,
It's
and I'm
similar
like,
to that.
is
yeah.
that right?
It's similar.
Depths
So you
or
can look by formation, you can look by depth, you can look by maturity type, even to a certain extent, for a lot of our data. And we are actually upgrading our database to include a Spotfire overlay.
Right
So you
on.
start to see some of those industry standard maps that you can
Right on.
pull, and it just makes it a little easier. It's a better screening tool when you can
Right
do
on.
that. And we're taking it a step further, and that we would really like to see the data integrated. I mean, how beneficial would it be to see an API versus GOR map, right?
Right.
And
Oh,
and
it's
those
huge.
are great for the reservoir engineers to understand really what they're
Huge.
looking at there. So so trying to begin to integrate the data and speak to multiple disciplines, if you will. So we're not just for geochemists anymore.
Yeah.
We're for reservoir engineers,
Right.
we're for geologists,
Yep.
we're for petrophysicists. Petrophysicists use our data all the time. We actually had one standing
Man.
over there just a minute ago talking to us about it. So, I mean, our application is for everybody. It's not just geochemistry
Yeah.
anymore.
Man, right on. Thank you for joining the
You're
PBE
welcome.
podcast.